Hi everyone. So, been getting a lot of requests to make a video for important topics for A2 economics. The exams were at a halt due to different political and other reasons that happened. But now the examiner is saying the exam will take place on the 15th. So, let's talk about some key topics that I feel can come. So my prediction. Now I want to talk about first why I believe these topics will come. We know the syllabus has changed now, and even the exam has changed. Now we have two sections of micro and macro, and you have a limited choice. You have to do one question from each section, and the question is now also of 20 marks, which means it doesn't have two parts. In a way, things will be different because now you have a limited choice, and now you also have what we call a different kind of question. But if you look at from my perspective, and also looking at how P2 was for the AS economics, I feel the paper is not going to be a difficult one. I feel the topics that will come will be those which are important in the sense of being what we call frequently tested, because examiner do want to make a paper which doesn't give too much surprises to you guys. So I feel because you're also doing it for the first time, it won't be that challenging. So some topics that I feel should be prepared. Number one is, for micro, I have a strong feeling that we should prepare market failure. It's a topic that any A2 students should be knowing, and we've seen a lot of these kind of questions coming in our exams in the recent years. One actually came in the India paper as well, which was talking about negative externalities. So knowing the diagram of externalities, for example, knowing how do we get rid of them, be it positive or negative externalities, so government policy around it and all that. So do prepare market failure really well. Then comes theory of firm. Now theory of firm is a huge topic, and predicting what will be tested will be a difficult one. But one thing which examiner loves to test us on is oligopoly and monopoly. Okay, so monopoly and oligopoly, both from the angle of their pros and cons, the efficiency aspect, the various sort of strategies, and in terms of oligopoly, and the various models in oligopoly. If you can, you should prepare oligopoly really well. Now, one strategy that I always recommend everyone is that since theory of firm is a huge topic, you need to have a working knowledge of it, because in your data response, if it comes, then you don't have any choice. But let's say if you have a good knowledge of theory of firm and it's not good enough for you to do an essay question, then if you can prepare, for example, market failure, labor market, and utility, then you are sorted, because one question or even two questions can come from these three topics. Labor market is extremely important, and here you need to understand there could be questions on wage determination, which requires us to talk about the four models of perfect competition, monopsony versus perfect competition, and trade union. Or it could be your wage differential question, where you talk about why are wages different. So look at the videos and get labor market done, because it's one topic that could be what you call your insurance policy. Similarly, utility and difference curve is also a good topic to prepare. Now, the big advantage of market failure, labor market, and utility is that these are not too big topics, and if you cover them and if they are solid for your essay question, then you do have a safe strategy. So you will be able to do at least one of the question of the two, because one of the questions will be either for market failure or labor market or utility and indifference curve. Now let's go to macro. In macro, first thing we need to understand is circular flow of income. Now there is a little sort of discussion that I want to have here, because normally what we used to do was that previously we used to have selective study for micro, but a thorough sort of study for macro. That was how the strategy last year was. But things have changed now, because now you have two questions and you need to do one from macro also. So what do we do now? Well, first is the circular flow of income. Now, circular flow of income basically means we need to know all the four sectors, closed economy, open economy, closed economy with government, and so on. So you need to know the four sector model, but you need to also know now within this discussion economic growth. So economic growth should be covered in terms of not only policies to promote economic growth and effectiveness, but also difference between actual versus potential growth. And something which is being added here this year is called business cycle. So please prepare business cycle discussion as well. It's a very small sort of discussion, not much of a confusion, but do prepare that. And here, the role of automatic stabilizers are also important. The reason why I'm saying this is because now they have added this in our syllabus as a standalone, and I have a strong feeling that they will basically give one question from the circular flow, which not only includes your four sector economy, but also includes your economic growth and automatic stabilizers and business cycles. Another important thing that I want to talk about is the idea that when you look at our syllabus now, there is a whole chunk that is being sort of added, which is on exchange rate and international economic issues. So this is a topic, if you look at it from international economic issue, which is unit 11 in our sort of syllabus, we are looking at basically things like exchange rate policies to sort of correct balance of payment, which was something which we did in AS economics. So if I were you, I would definitely cover exchange rate from AS, which includes managed, which includes floating, which includes fixed, and also policies to correct balance of payment. I feel this is being now given from AS to A2, and there could be very high likelihood that this topic can also come in our exam. Another topic that I feel strongly about, and I feel it's a very important topic for us to prepare, primarily because now money discussion has moved from AS to completely A2. So I feel one should be very well prepared for money and banking. Now, money and banking includes various things, but a very popular exam question that you could see coming is basically sources of money supply, and then not only sources of money supply, but also looking at another aspect, which is your money demand. So when we look at money demand, we are looking at liquidity preference theory. We should know this. When you look at how your demand for money changes and how interest rates are determined through. There is also loanable fund theory added here. So cover that as well, because it's something which is added this time around. Now, when you look at sources of money supply, we do need to make sure we prepare quantitative easing. So quantitative easing is something which the examiner has been putting a lot of emphasis in the last few years, and I feel one should be very well prepared. Now, there is, guys, a whole chunk of discussion that comes in terms of development and developing economics. It's something which, if you prepare, then you are basically definitely going to be sort of ready for a lot of these questions. So economic development is something which is a topic that you can choose to prepare. Now, it's not a difficult topic, but there's a lot to remember, because when you look at economic development, you need to know factors that make developers developing countries. You need to know all the various indicators of economic development, like for example your GDP, GNP, purchasing power parity. Then we look at, for example, the non-monetary indicators, also the HDI, the MEW, and so on. So this is all something which, if you can prepare, easy discussion, but it will be a good choice in terms of doing it, because the question won't be difficult if it comes from this. It's just that it requires you to remember a lot of stuff. Lastly, guys, what I would probably not ignore is basically economic problems, their interrelatedness, and trade-offs. So what are we looking at here? Well, we need to look at inflation, balance of payment, unemployment, and economic growth. But we then look at basically the relationship between them. For example, the relationship between inflation and your exchange rate, the relationship between, for example, balance of payment and inflation, the relationship between, for example, economic growth and inflation, and then the trade-offs as well. The Phillips curve, which is a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. So got to prepare this discussion along with the policies to solve that. So policies may include fiscal policy, monetary policy, and supply side policy. If we have this covered, this can become a very good essay question. Now remember, because now the question is going to be for 20 marks and there's going to be only one part to that question, means that there will be a question that will be asked from a particular topic, and they will not vary between two topics. So that's kind of an advantage which can help us well. Okay, so guys, this is my kind of like prediction for the exam in terms of like key important topic. Now if you are running out of time and you really want to know what are the few topics that can save you, then my big prediction will be, like if you ask me, will be market failure, utility and labor market. These three things you prepare. Then the next thing you prepare is money, banking, basically sources of demand and supply of money, and quantitative easing. And if you could also prepare economic development, then you have something which could basically be keeping you safe. Having said that, if you can prepare all of these topics that I've mentioned, or revise all of these topics that I have mentioned, I think you are in a safe place. So good luck for Monday, and hope you guys do well.